Aksharam Hrudi Nirantaram Bhasate Swayam Likyate Katham Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahma Matram Yaham Maham Niti Sakshat Atma Rupena Bhati Hrudi Vishamanasa Svam Chinvata Majjata Pavana Chalana Rodha Atmanishto Bhavatvam Deham Mrunmayavat Jadatmakam Aham Buddhirnatasyastyatho Naham Tattata Bhavashukti Samay Siddhatma Sadbhataha Koham Bhavayuta Kuto Varadhiya Drishtatmanishtatmana Soham Spurtitaya Arunachala Shivaha Purno Vibhati Swayam Soham Spurtitaya Arunachala Shivaha Purno Vibhati Swayam. Namo Ramana. In this, the Thursday Satsang from Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning, as is the usual practice, we will be referring to the work Guru Vachka Kovai. We'll be reading two verses selected for us. Each verse reading will be followed by a short meditation on the meaning of the verse, and that shall be followed by the practice of self-inquiry, Atma Vicharam, for 10 minutes. After these two segments of verse reading, meditation on the meaning, and the practice are completed, there will be summing up remarks by our President, Dr. Shardaka, and that shall be followed by the Sri Ramanastotram offering The chanting will be by Vaibhavji and Ratnama, and the floral offering shall be by Shri Manjunathji from here. We begin this evening satsang by taking the first verse selected for us, which happens to be verse number 1. Verse number 1 of this work is the verse selected for us. This is, of course, as part of the prefatory verses. There are about 13 prefatory verses, and these prefatory verses are followed by the three main segments of the work: investigation into truth, meditation on the truth, and anubhava or experience of the truth. So we begin this evening satsang by taking the first verse under the prefatory verses, and the subsegment is obeisance to the Guru. Obeisance to the Guru. The Guru abides without the base mental attitude of I and mine. The Guru abides without the base mental attitude of I and mine, which exist through their dependence on erroneous understanding. He, the Guru, is the son of Bodha, knowledge, that will shine as the self of the seeker, conferring such a clarity of knowledge in his heart, he will no longer be distressed by his longing for grace. There is a note from the translators. The idea being presented here is that once the seekers have a direct experience of true knowledge, they will no longer pine for grace because they already have the full experience of it. The word bodha, translated here as knowledge, can be equated in this context with jnana, a Sanskrit word that was often used by Bhagavan to indicate true knowledge or knowledge of the self. Jnana is the state of irrevocable enlightenment. In it, one knows oneself to be the Atman, the self, and Atman alone. So I go back to the verse. The Guru abides without the base mental attitude of I and mine, which exist through their dependence on erroneous understanding. He is the son of Bodha, knowledge, jnana, which will shine as the self of the seeker, conferring such a clarity of knowledge in his heart, he will no longer be distressed by his longing for grace. So we begin any seeking with the longing for grace of God, grace of Guru, because there is discontent in us and we understand the nature of our effort. So there is this longing for grace. Will grace not help me, be with me and support me? And the verse begins that how does the Guru exist? What is the nature of the Guru? There is a meeting of Seshadri Swamigal and Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi. Must have been in the early days of their stay in Tiruvannamalai. And this happens to take place in Mamarat Guhai, that is somewhere in between the Virupaksha cave and the ground. Now, Seshadri Swamigal is of such meditative nature, such sensitive nature, that whenever somebody comes near him or whenever he goes near somebody, he can detect their thoughts. He can easily come to know what their thoughts are. And in this instance, though he is standing near Bhagavan, the Brahmana Swami, he is not able to detect any thoughts that is going on. And he asks Bhagavan, why don't you think of Arunachala? Will he not give mukti? Then Bhagavan asks about this, the first line of this verse. Is there a division between the worshipper and the worshipped? In consciousness, is there a division? Is the worshipped so finite that the worshipper can stand apart from it? Then Seshadri Swamigal acknowledges, no. Of course, there can't be any division between worshipper and worshipped. However, for me, Arunachala is still Arunachala, and he does pranams to Arunachala and goes. That is how the event is described. So what is the consciousness within the jnani? Bhagavan says, it is not divided even as I and the mind being entirely only Arunachala, not the mind of multiple objects, but mind, the entire mind being Arunachala, that division is also not there. The consciousness is completely undivided. This undivided consciousness has always been the practice that has been asked to be conducted in either the witness meditation present in various religions or Atma Vichara of Bhagavan. In witness meditation, the consciousness or attention is asked to be removed of its contents of good and bad, the division as good and bad. And in Atma Vichara, we remove the division in consciousness that is present as subject and object, I and mind. So how is the Guru present? He is present as the undivided consciousness. The Guru abides without the base mental attitude of I and mind. There is no division in the consciousness within as I and mind. That is why Bhagavan says that Ulla porul ullalara ullatte ullada. How does God the Self exist within us? It does not rise as I, or it does not rise as mind. It does not have any thoughts. It is bereft of the I and mind thoughts. Ullal ara. So that is the nature of the jnani, the Sadguru, that he is the undivided consciousness present within us. What happens? He is that son of Bodha which will shine as the self. Now, how is the divided consciousness as I and mind rising? It is because of erroneous understanding or ignorance that we, the self, are actually this finite body or an aggregation of a collection of thoughts. There is this ignorance. Therefore, the I arises. The moment I arises, so many objects in the mind arise, and there is this division in consciousness as I and mind, which we call as the presence of the whole world. Now, what happens? He is the son of the Bodha that will shine as the self of the seeker. When we carry out Bhagavan's Upadesham of doing Atma Vicharam and hold the Ulla Unarvu, hold the source of the I thought, the source of the awareness of the other thought and the awareness of I thought are both present. But how to go to the substrate, that is the awareness of existence, is only to let go of the other thought and to go to the awareness of I thought, Ulla Unarvu, and go to the source of that. When we do that, when the sadhaka practices that, then the Guru rises and shines as the undivided consciousness as I. Now, that is grace. That is the experience of grace of God. There is absolute clarity that all the wealths in all the worlds are present in that. All knowledge in all the worlds are present in that. All happiness that can ever be experienced are only that. That is what Bhagavan says to Nagalakshmamma, who is the better half of the second president of Ramanashram, T.N. Venkatraman sir, who was there from 1952-53 till 1994 as the president of the ashram. They get married quite early, and she is a very young lady who comes to the ashram, and she just remarks to some ladies, that their silk saree is looking beautiful, looking good. And they go and send the parcel of 2 silk sarees, which is received by Bhagavan. And to the good fortune of Nagalakshmamma and the good fortune of all of us, Bhagavan calls her and tells, whatever you see in another is already in you. Then she defends and says, no, Bhagavan, I did not covet the saree. I did not ask for the saree. I only said that it is beautiful. Then he repeats, whatever you see outside of yourself is already within you. Whatever we see in outside worlds is all present and completely consumed by the undivided self, by the divisionless consciousness, the Bodham, the Jnanam, that is the Sadguru. The Sadguru himself, the Guru himself is everything. He is the greatest Aishwarya, is the greatest knowledge, is the greatest happiness. Then there is no doubt that one has immersed in and merged into that grace, and all seeking, all longing for grace is gone, because there is actual experience of grace. We initially begin with having faith in God, and the intellect comes and doubts it. These two go on and tussle in the eye and mind field. Then Bhagavan asks, go for actual experience of God rather than merely holding faith with the ego. What is the actual experience of God? To go for the undivided consciousness. One clearly understands that one is now merged in that absolute grace, in that absolute supreme being, and in the Parandama Sthiti, from where there is no going or coming. It is the irrevocable self-realization. That's what says the notes. There is no more feeling of longing for grace. Will grace not come and help me? Will grace not come and help someone? Absolutely not. One understands that everything, everyone, every world is completely immersed in that divisionless consciousness, the absolute grace of Bhagavan. With Bhagavan's immense grace, let us sit in practice of Atma Uchar, which takes us to the direct experience of existence of God, which takes us to the direct experience of the presence of absolute grace, and removes all longing from us and merges us as one with it. Let us sit in practice for 10 minutes. Revatima, you can set the time for us. Namo Ramana. We go on to the reading of the second verse selected for us today. The verse number is 1254. 1254. This is in the segment Experience of the Truth. This is the last verse, the benedictory verse. The state of equipoise, benediction, 1254. Long live Arunagiri, Arunachala. Long live Ramana Guru. Long live the devotees who live by the one unique word. Let this Paramartha Deepam, the lamp of supreme truth, the beneficial garland, strung with the sayings of the Guru Murti, the form or manifestation of the Guru, prove fruitful and live forever. Paramartha Deepam means Guruvachaka Kovai text. Since this is the subtitle of the book, the words Guru, garland and sayings also appear in the verse. So the benedictory verse goes like this. Vadi, long live Arunagiri, Arunachala. Long live Ramana Guru. Long live the devotees who live by the one unique word. Let this Paramartha Deepam, the lamp of supreme truth, the beneficial garland, strung with the sayings of the Guru Murti, the form or manifestation of the Guru, prove fruitful and live forever. What is eternal being? Eternal being. The word eternal is added to the undivided consciousness to give us a sense of it. Eternal brings in the time element. Forever. Forever and ever. Eternal being. In the undivided consciousness, there is not even the word of eternal nature. But we bring in that element to show the ever-present nature, the omnipresent nature of the truth. Now, the mantras, for instance, when we chant Aksharamanamale, each verse is a mantra. Each verse is a mantra invoking Arunachala, invoking existence consciousness, invoking the self. Each verse, the jnani is the bridge in one sense between this world and the eternal being. The jnani is the nostrils through which this earth, the Bhumi Mate, she breathes in the infinite. Now, that is why we go to the Samadhi shrine of Bhagavan. They are the bridge between this plane of existence and the eternal being. In one sense, they have one hand in eternal being and one hand here, so that they can pull us, they can allow us to walk over from here to there in sadhana and merge into the infinite being, and then say that this world or the mantra are also absorbed in the eternal being. So here we are given a sense of the eternality of Aksharamanamale, the eternality of all the works of Bhagavan, the eternality of every word that has come out of him, the eternality of the Nama of Arunachala, the eternality of the Nama of Ramana Sadguru, the eternal being of the Guru Vachaka Kovai, which is called as Paramartha Deepam. By its very nature, it is the supreme light, that which transcends the lights of Chit and Jada. It is the Paramartha Deepam, which is eternal light shining and allowing us to go from the limited to the limitless. So, how they do that? How is a Nama, a Taraka mantra? How is a Stotra, like Aksharamanamale, a Taraka mantra? Now, in Dhyana, there was a lady called Pankajakshama, who would say to me that I have met her only twice. She was one of the devotees who have actually lived with Bhagwan. Her whole family was in seva of Bhagwan. And she used to tell in one of those 2 meetings that for her in the morning, she has to just get up and go through the normal ablutions, cleaning up. Then immediately the whole of Arunachala Stuti Panchakam and the whole of Ramana Stuti Panchakam will go on automatically. In her. Something where the whole world is seen to be going on automatically, then that consciousness which is feeling this automatic going on of the world, because for them the Nama is the whole world is going on automatically. The awareness is eternal existence. The Nama is the eternal existence in the manifest form. And the consciousness is in the unmanifest form. So to come from the manifest to the unmanifest, the eternal mantra of Aksharamanamale, of Ramana Nama, of Guru Vachaka Kovai, all this, even for those who are directly practicing Atma Ucharam, the support of the eternal beings, the rishis are called as mantra drishtas. The mantras are supposed to exist in this space of consciousness, and they are able to see it. They are able to see it and draw it for us. Ulladanarpadu, when somebody is chanting, it is, I think, sub-registrar Natesh Iyer or someone, sub-registrar Natesh Iyer, I think. And he comes to Bhagavan and he pleads that he is not able to do self-inquiry. And Bhagavan says, you love Ulladanarpadu, don't you? Then he says, still I can't do self-inquiry. Bhagavan says, you go on chanting Ulladanarpadu. You go on doing the chanting of Ulladanarpadu. What will happen? Asks the sub-registrar. I am not remembering his name at this moment. Then Bhagavan says, as you keep chanting, the words will fall away and the truth will remain. The truth of the words will remain. The manifest form will drop away and the eternal being will remain. That is why all these are praised as long-lived. They are eternal beings already. By praising them as long-lived, we understand that that they are eternal beings. Vadi, long live Arunagiri, Arunachala. Long live Ramana Guru. They are eternal beings. Long live the devotees who live by the one unique word, by the Atma, by the I, the source of the I, who live by that. Long live all those devotees. They all become eternal beings. When we do meditation on Guru Vachaka Kovai, Muruganar Swamigal comes here. Muruganar Swamigal himself gives us the Upadesham, gives us the meanings. When we stay, he is an eternal being, for he has abided in the teachings of Bhagavan. When we meditate on the notes given by Sivaprakasham Pillai himself is there. Now all of them are within us. As the self itself is within us, all the deities are within us. Bhagavan would say, one who is abiding in the undivided consciousness has access to all knowledge. Now, who will want the divided knowledge? When the knowledge of the eternal beings is available, why would somebody want divided knowledge of what is this chair made of and other things? Obviously, such knowledgeable ones, the real Panditas, they will seek only the eternal beings. And by seeking and abiding by the teachings of the eternal beings, they themselves merge as eternal beings. Of course, they all merge into the form of the Guru, Ramana. For them, there need not be any existence apart from Ramana. And Ramana himself merges into existence consciousness. And existence consciousness or Ulla Unarva merges into Ulla Parul. But are they eternal beings or not? They are all eternal beings. And when one starts self-inquiry, all of them come to support. All the great eternal beings come in support. We will actually be given the blessing of knowing, yes, I am the one who is coming and supporting you, but this is not my real form. My real form is also the self. So long live Arunagiri, long live Ramana Guru, long live the devotees who live by the one unique word. Let this Paramartha Deepam, the lamp of supreme truth, the beneficial garland strung by the sayings of Guru Murti, the form of manifestation of the Guru, prove fruitful. Obviously, it will. There is no doubt that going through Guru Achakakove is going to prove fruitful. One is going to be absorbed in the self and live forever, says the benedictory verse, without any doubt, without cause for doubt. One should relentlessly practice, and one can actually feel the support of all the great beings. The great ones, Arunachala, Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharishi, Shiva Prakasham Pillai, Muruganar Swamigal, Sadhu Om Swamigal, all of them come rushing in to clarify one, to set right one Granthi. This is removed, that is given. And finally, we are able to complete the sadhana of Atma Vicharam. And the self rises and shines as I. That is the form of all the manifestations. All the manifestations of the eternal beings, Satyanarayana Swami, Narasimha Swami, all of them get merged into that I. And that I also becomes quiet when all the I am the body vasana of the sadhaka, of the devotee, is completely absorbed. And the devotee himself, herself, is now the eternal being. Long live that devotee. Long live Bhagavan. Let us sit and practice for Atma Vicharam for 10 more minutes. Ravatima, you will help us with the time. Namo Ramana. I request our President, Dr. Sharadaka, to give us the summing up remarks. Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings, by the immense grace of that self manifested as Ramana. We have been meditating on every Thursday on verses from Guru Vachaka Kovai, followed by the practice of self-inquiry. And in this verse, in the prayer, in the prefatory verses, the Muruganar Swami has told us that even this thought of grace, even the longing for grace, which is the ultimate longing, that will also be erased. When Muruganar Swami says the longing for grace will be erased, the desire for grace will be erased, it automatically means that all other desires will be erased. Because that would be the final desire. The final desire would be the desire for the grace of becoming self-aware. So that bodham is conferred by the Sadguru, who is the son of knowledge, says Muruganar Swami. In another Vadi sloka, in another Mangala sloka, where he says Vadi Vadi, he says, Arikkanum Somanum Angiyumaga Amaindol Mukkat Sudar Vadiye. So he says he is that light of Shiva. The Sadguru is that light of Shiva, which has the three eyes of the sun, the moon, and the fire. But he is that light, Mukkan Shudar. So he says he is that light. In that light, where can you see an eye or another eye or the sun or the moon? These are all there, but then they're all consumed by that light, says Muruganar Swami. And it confers, Nandakumar ji said that all the worlds, all the gods are included, all the worlds are included, all experiences are included, transcended, and they merge into that blissful experience of the self. I'm reminded of one of my favorite songs of Muruganar, where he says, Bhagavan, that grace, Arule Amude Agame Sugame, that grace, that nectar, what does it do? That nectar, which is the Guru's grace, it actually hands over the self, the experience of the self on a platter. Adara Sivat Anubhuti Unakku Eda Surupatiyal Khan. See the grace, see the naturalness of the self. Surupatiyal, see the nature of the self, see the naturalness of the self. Surupatiyal Khan enave. Vedagama Jnana Venai Unava Udari Vandane Uttinane. This extravagant giver of gifts, translates Professor Swaminathan, extravagance of grace. It's an extravagance, he says. In that grace he gives, he feeds us like a mother feeds a child with that grace, and then the child is absolutely full. The stomach is full. There won't be any further need. Bhagavan says the Guru actually feeds the child, the seeker, with self-knowledge, even without the knowledge of the seeker. Oftentimes, he says, it's like a mother feeding an infant when the infant is asleep. But the mother knows the infant is hungry and the mother feeds the infant. On waking up, the little child may say, I never had any milk last night. I never ate anything last night. But the milk was fed by the mother. And that fullness is described by Muruganar Swami. And he says, Sugame Yalbana Swarupa Nilai Migamedagavaga Vilanguvadal. Because that naturalness, Sugame Yalvana Swarupa Nilai, that naturalness of the self, that naturalness of the bliss of the self, because it is ablaze, he says, Mega Medagavaga Vilanguvadal. Medagavaga, it is just ablaze. That is the light of Arunachala. The all-enveloping light of Arunachala, without beginning or end or anything. What happens? What happens? He says, Ihame parama iyalsi hridayat ahame ahamaha amaindaduve. Ihame parama. He says, this world becomes the supreme world, the supreme state, the highest that can be attained. So this becomes the highest. Or heaven comes to earth. Everything that needs to be attained comes down here. It is the blessing of the Sadguru. And after that, there is no seeking, as Muruganar Swami has told us in these introductory verses. When there is no seeking, further seeking, what remains to be done? There is only a celebration. Celebration and more celebration. Praise the glory of the Lord. What is the celebration? It is just to keep on praising the Lord. And that is what we get in the last verse. He praises the Lord, he praises the devotees, he praises that light of Arunachala, which is, Bhagavan says, Kabalita Ghana Vishwarupa Kiranavalya in the Arunachala Panchayatnam. Kabalita, Sri G. Kameshwar wrote that it is, Kabalita means it has engulfed, it has swallowed everything. Kabalita Ghana Vishwarupa. It has swallowed the dense manifestation. And if it has swallowed it already, how can anything else remain? Kabalita, when it has already eaten it up. When the self, when Arunachala, the self, in that vast expanse of knowledge, that is the light, the jnana bodha of Arunachala, when it swallowed everything, how can anything remain apart from it? How can anything else remain apart from it is a question which is asked by G. Kameshwar. So the word Kabalita, which Bhagavan uses over here, and here in the introductory, the first verse we got today by Bhagavan's grace, the first and the last, the beginning and the end are both common. They are both in the same place. The beginning of the rise of the I thought is also the end point of the I thought. From where this I thought arises, there it subsides in the heart. So Bhagavan's grace gave us the beginning and the end. The rising itself, in the beginning itself, Muruganar Swami spoke about the final experience. Because the beginning itself is the end. The beginning and the end are not different in a circle. One does not know what is the beginning and what is the end. And that, in that bliss, Bhagavan promises to us. All the great ones say, Kunju Swami says, Sadhu Om Swami says, everyone says that this is the promise of Bhagavan's advent. The promise that Ihame Param. This is the ELC, Hridayat, this to get back to the heart, that he will take us back to the heart through his words, through the practice of those words, and getting the savoring the experience of the self through practice, probably intermittently to begin with, gradually, and then being completely swallowed, completely enveloped by that very grace. Then there would be no other to even think of anything or to ask anything. Ahame, ahamaha, amaindaduve, says Muruganar Swami in that verse in Sri Ramana Guru Prasadam or Ramananubhuti. Ahame, ahamaha, amaindaduve. What happens? Does something new come? Does something extraordinary happen? What is this? This great bliss is talked about, which is all enveloping, which consumes everything, which leaves nothing to be desired. But what is it? It is just the self remaining as the self, says Muruganar Swami. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramana.
Namo Ramanakar.
Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana Vibhavji and Pratnama. Can we begin the chanting?
Namo Ramana. भारद्वाज विश्वनाथ विरचितं श्री रमणाष्टोत्तर शतनामावलिः अपार सच्चित् सुखवारिराशे यस्योर्मिमात्रं भुवनं समस्तं गुहाहितं तं रमणं गभीरं चिन्ताविहीनं हृदि चिन्तयामि ॐ महासेन महंसेन जाताय नमः ॐ श्रीरमणाय नमः ॐ गुरवे नमः ॐ अखण्डसम्भ्राकाराय नमः ॐ महोजसे नमः ॐ कारणोद्भवाय नमः ॐ जगद्धितावताराय नमः ॐ श्रीभूमिनाथस्थलोस्थिताय नमः ॐ पराशरकुलोत्तंसाय नमः ॐ सुन्दरार्यतपःफलाय नमः ॐ कमनीयसुचारित्राय नमः ॐ सहायाम्बा सहायवते नमः ॐ शोणाचलमहोलीनमानसाय नमः ॐ स्वर्णहस्तकाय नमः ॐ श्रीमद्द्वादशान्तमहास्थले लब्धविद्योदयाय नमः ॐ महाशक्तिनिपातेन प्रबुद्धाय नमः ॐ परमार्थविदे नमः ॐ तीव्राय नमः ॐ पितृपदान्वेषिणे नमः ॐ इन्दुमौलिना पितृमते नमः ॐ पितुरादेशतः शौर्णशैलं प्राप्ताय नमः ॐ तपोमयाय नमः ॐ उदासीनाय नमः ॐ महायोगिने नमः ॐ महोत्साहाय नमः ॐ कुशाग्रधिये नमः ॐ शान्तसङ्कल्पसंरम्भाय नमः ॐ सुसन्दृशे नमः ॐ सवित्रे नमः ॐ स्थिराय नमः ॐ तपक्षपितसर्वाङ्गाय नमः ॐ पुल्लाम्बुजविलोचनाय नमः ॐ चन्द्रिकासितहासश्रीमण्डिताननमण्डलाय नमः ॐ चूतवाट्यां समासीनाय नमः ॐ चूर्णिताखिलविभ्रमाय नमः ॐ वेदवेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञाय नमः ॐ चिन्मुद्रिणे नमः ॐ त्रिगुणातिगाय नमः ॐ विरूपाक्षगुहावासाय नमः ॐ विराजदचलाकृतये नमः ॐ उद्दीप्तनयनाय नमः ॐ पूर्णाय नमः। ॐ रचिताचलताण्डवाय नमः। ॐ गम्भीराय नमः। ॐ परमाचार्याय नमः। ॐ सुप्रसन्नाय नमः। ॐ अभयप्रदाय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणास्य निभाय नमः। ॐ धीराय नमः। ॐ दक्षिणाभिमुखाय नमः। ॐ स्वराजे नमः। ॐ महर्षये नमः। ॐ भगवते नमः। ॐ ईड्याय नमः। ॐ भूमविद्याविशारदाय नमः। ॐ विमलाय नमः। ॐ दीर्घदर्शिने नमः। ॐ आप्ताय नमः। ॐ ऋजुमार्गप्रदर्शकाय नमः। ॐ समदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्यदृशे नमः। ॐ सत्याय नमः। ॐ प्रशान्ताय नमः। ॐ अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्रीशोणाचलऋद्बोधस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेष्ट्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्न संशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादकसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ मृच्छान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणात् बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणादृशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनाम पूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थानोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रहसुप्रवाहविवश तादात्म्यभावं गतः हृन्निष्ठस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनासेकराट् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नमः इदं लोकोत्तरज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
सदाशिवप्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि दर्शन सुख मंगल मुख सकल जीवहित सम्मुख ब्रह्म संघिये सदा तुष्ट सदा हृष्ट सदा शिवानंद पुष्ट परम महर्षि ब्रह्मनिष्ठ समदर्शि ನಮ್ಮ ಮನವರುಳ್ಳು ನೀನರಿತಿಹೆ ಅರರ ಜಾಡು ಹಿತವನರಿತು ನೀಡುತ್ತೆ ಕೊರೆಯ ತಣಿಸಲೈ ಬೇಡಲೆಂದು ಬಂದ ನಾವು ನೋಡಿಯೇ ತಣಿವೆವಯ್ಯ ಮೋಡಿಗಾರನೆ ಹಿತವ ನುಡಿದು ಪೊರೆ ನಮ್ಮನು ಬ್ರಹ್ಮ ಸಂಘಿಯೇ ನಮೋ 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 ರಮಣ ಸದಾಶಿವ ಪ್ರಭಾವರಣ ನಮೋ महर्षि नमो महर्षि नमो 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 रमण सदाशिव प्रभावरण नमो महर्षि नमो महर्षि बोलो भगवान श्री रमण महर्षि की जय।